Morning, everybody. Welcome back. Monday morning here. We're going to work on the Indian Larry tribute bike a little bit. Not a ton of stuff to do on it. We're waiting for some materials to get in. But we got the bars, the handlebar risers, all that stuff. So we're going to go ahead and mock those up so we can get a look at them. Got the tank all body worked and in prime. Going to get that mounted on the frame. We usually like to put our tanks in prime while we're doing the fab just because the humidity and stuff in Florida here, the tank will be rusty within a few weeks. So we did make up a pattern for our front springer leg. We were going to be redoing the front springer leg in stainless steel. Be twisted hex, a new handmade cross bridge. So I made up a cool little pattern for that. I'll show you guys. I don't know, maybe we'll get the back end torn down depending on how time goes. Only got a couple hours here this morning. So if time allots, we'll get the back wheel, fender, all that old stuff out of there so we can start looking at all our new setup. One other quick bit of housekeeping or poll taking, if you will. Considering starting to add in a video series on tool making. Won't be anything crazy, just, a lot of times we make different types of tools or tooling for projects that we're working on that we don't have, so, sometimes it's as simple as an arbor. I need to make some hole saw arbors here coming up soon, so that was something I was thinking about for the milling machine. Different stuff, clutch removal tools for Sportsters. I don't know, it's all kinds of different tooling. I just don't know if that's something that would be of interest to people or not. If it is of interest to you, let us know, and we will start adding that to the mix. Normally it's not something I film. It's just something I do real quick and then move on to the job, but I find them interesting. I watch some other channels where the guys do that, and it's something I enjoy, so I thought I'd ask if it's something people are interested in. So please let us know what you think about that. That's it. We're going to get out in the shop and get working. All right, so first things first, we're going to get these risers mounted up. We went with this real classic rubber mounted step back riser. Larry ran these on a lot of his bikes from what I can see. So that's what we went with, these here. And because we have a Springer front end, the handlebar spacing is wider than conventional. So I like to run these adapters. It's two reasons why. Number one, I don't like the width of a Springer handlebar. If you run the risers out all the way wide, you need a wider bar in the center, and I just don't like the way it looks. So that's the main reason I do it. The second reason is it really limits the riser style, because all the standard risers, they do make studs where you can just thread them in, but you have to use like shims to get them clocked right, and it's, I don't know, it's just not something to me that ever really works that well or looks that good. So I'm not a huge fan of either of those setups. So we use these little offset plates. It bolts onto the Springer and moves you into a standard 3.5 inch Harley bar spacing. Of course, these bolts they give us are too long, it looks like. All right, so I'm gonna go ahead and get these bolts cut off a little shorter. All of this is just mock-up, so we're not going crazy tightening anything, putting Loctite on it or anything like that. So we get our risers mounted to our adapter. Got to get these plastics out of the Springer. right, so there's our bar mock-up. The overall look is what we want, but man, some of the quality of these parts, I don't know what's going on. I'm going to have to get with the manufacturer. These bar clamps are way too small. Looks like they're almost for like 15/16 bars or something instead of 1 inch. So, but this will work for mock-up. I'm going to see what they have to say. Worst case scenario, we'll put them in the mill, open the clamp up, you know. Unfortunately, seems that's the nature of the game these days, is you buy a part, it's close to what you want, and then you make it work. But the look is exactly what we want, so I'm happy with that. We will get some different bolts to hold our adapter on, and overall it's going to be perfect. We're just going to have to do a little work on these bar risers. It's, you know, like I said, it's typical for the way things go these days. All right, so next up, we are going to get our tank mounted. When I mount a tank, I like to just clamp it on here and then step back and look at it aesthetically. It doesn't really matter where it goes. So you just want to, you know, eyeball it from the back, eyeball it from the sides, and just decide where you like the way it looks. That's basically the only thing that matters in mounting a tank. That and that the handlebars don't hit it. So, you know, that's why I wanted to get these mocked up. We check our steering, this type of setup. We got miles of clearance. We just kind of lay it out where we like the way it looks. Once we do that, I like to mark the mounting holes where we got it clamped with a Sharpie. So we had the old hole in the frame here where the speedometer cable used to go, which is actually, we were like half on that hole, so I want to reclamp, take another look and see if I like that, because if that looks good, it'll save us from having to drill. We'll just machine a bung, put it in the frame, and we'll be set there. It's only about a ½ inch back, maybe not even 3/8 back from where I had it. So yeah, I'm thinking that looks just as good. We will mark our one hole. The other hole's already there, so there's nothing to mark. I'm gonna go ahead and measure this hole. It's 1 inch, so I'll grab a piece of 1 inch round bar, make a bung. We'll put it in there, tack it, bolt the tank on, and then double check the fitment on our rear mark. If that's good, we'll do the same thing there. This isn't exactly going to work like I thought, because whoever drilled this hole in the frame, it was obviously not factory drilled, and it is super crooked. So I guess we need to knock this out of there. We'll weld this up, and then we get the frame taken apart. I'll weld up the bottom and clean it up. All right, so we got that hole filled. Grab a flap wheel, clean that off, and we'll be ready to set the tank back up there for another look. All right, we got that cleaned up. Round two, setting up the tank. All right, we got our transfer punch, and we got a piece of, looks like 3/4. Let's see what it is. Yep, 3/4 round bar. So I'm gonna go ahead and lop off 2 pieces of this, make up the bungs, then we'll come back, drill the back frame, tack it in, and mark, drill, weld in the front bung, the whole deal, process repeated. All right, so we're gonna go ahead and get our hole drilled here. Use these carbide hole saws. All right, so the reason I use these is they cut a really nice round clean hole. So just cleaning off a little bit of last remaining paint and Bondo there. And what did I do with our bungs I just made? So something else I do when I'm putting a bung in, put a long bolt in it. Then when you insert it in the frame, we got a little burr in there. When you insert it in the frame, you can step back and it gives you an eyeball on the straightness of everything. Plus it gives you a nice handle to hold the bung while you're putting it in the frame, so you don't burn your fingers welding. So, really nice tight fit. I'm happy with that. Come around the back where I can get an eyeball on it. And we look nice and straight. So we'll go ahead and zap a couple tacks with the MIG there. Again, this will get TIG welded when we're finished welding all the frame. So I just MIG weld when I'm doing these mock-ups. So there we go. 2 quick tacks is all we need. Let that cool off a minute. You never want to screw a screw right into a freshly welded bung, because as it cools, it can grab a hold of that bolt and then it'll gall coming out, and especially if it's stainless steel, and then you just got a mess on your hands. You're cutting your work out and redoing it. So we'll give that a minute to cool, come back and bolt this tank on, transfer punch our front hole. Alright, we got our tank bolted on. Check it again for fitment. You know, try and make sure you look from all sides a bunch of times. Get your transfer punch. I see why I can't see it. Time for some new transfer punches. It looks like the tip is really dull. I have to try and find a good set of transfer punches. I usually just buy the cheapies and they don't last very long. A couple of good shots and the tip seems to flatten out. Alright, well, it looks like we're in our plug that we put in there, so this ought to be interesting to drill too. But we'll see what we can come up with. Okay. All right. So you can see how much longer that takes without the carbide hole saw. I have to order a new 3/4 inch one, it seems. That one has drilled its last hole. So they're real inexpensive. They're kind of, I consider them disposable in a lot of ways. So anyway, you'll see too, there's a little bit more play when you use the regular hole saw, but not a big problem. This will still go in nice and clean. Again, I'll zap the one tack, step back, check our straightness with our long bolt. Looking good. Shoot our opposite tack, pull our bolt out of there so it doesn't seize up when it cools. And there you have it. Got our tank mounted, handlebars mocked up, and that's going to be kind of the rider's viewpoint from the bike, which I think has got a really cool, classic looking shape. All right, next up, we're going to go ahead and get this back all stripped down. Fender, sissy bar, rear wheel, rear brake, exhaust, and oil tank all need to come off the bike because they're getting redone. All new parts will be used to mock up all this stuff. So something I always try to avoid is shit talking somebody else's work, because we all started somewhere, and I'm sure I would be really embarrassed if I saw some of my early work from 20, 25 years ago. I can specifically think of a few things in my mind, but I just had to share this brake stay. This has got to be 1/4 inch thick, 2 inch wide steel flat bar. Actually, it's flat bar. It's got like a 3/4 inch bolt on the one end and what looks like a 5/16 on the other. And it's crazy. I want to weigh it when I take it off. I bet it weighs 3 pounds. It's just hilarious. Like, guys, if you're starting out and you're using what you have, I get that. But take a cutoff wheel and put a little shape in that thing or something. I mean, you can buy a cutoff wheel for $9 at Harbor Freight. If you're building a bike, you got $9. All right, we're going to get the rest of this stuff off. All right, we got the oil tank drained. So I'm going to go ahead and cut these oil lines, get this tank out of here. Go ahead and cut all the old wiring out of here. And we'll be rewiring everything. That's it, we're looking pretty good now. Got our back completely stripped. Ready to get our new wheel, tire, fender, oil tank. We got an air ride seat going in, and just got rid of all the old junk. Gonna clean up these axle plates, maybe reshape them a little bit, and just get everything fit in here nice. Got our tank mounted, handlebars mocked up. Really digging the look of this overall. All right, one other quick thing before we call it a day. I mentioned to you guys we were going to remake this Springer leg here. The tube portion will be replaced with some twisted hexagonal stainless steel. And this, what I call the bridge. I don't know why, but anyway, that's what I call it. The bridge is going to get made out of this. So this is just a pattern. I drew it up in CAD. I cut out a template on our CNC. And I'm going to use this to lay out on a piece of 1-inch thick stainless steel, which will then cut and machine and all that to make our crossover bridge, if you will. So that's what we got going on here. This will be a really kind of complex piece to make, and will likely end up as its own episode, because I have a feeling it's going to take me minimum of a day to make that. So anyway, that's where we're at there, just to keep you guys updated. All right, guys, that's going to be it for today. Real happy with the progress. Next week, we'll be able to start mocking up the back end of the bike, which will really start to give our overall look. Also, hopefully by then, we might have the material in and start on that Springer leg. And just keep plugging away at this thing. It's turning out really nice. And basically, everything's kind of coming together how we plan with it. So that's where we're at on that. I'm glad you guys are here, and I hope to see you next time at Gatti's Garage.